Welcome back to This to Digital. We talk about today's video games and the classics that inspire them. I'm your host, Brett Clark.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Matt Keaton. This week, we're diving right into Life is Strange Episode 3 entitled Chaos Theory.
Yes. And be sure to stay tuned for this week's Save Points, where we answer your questions and read your comments. All right here on This to Digital. So, Matt, Chaos Theory, Episode 3 of Life is Strange, that's where a lot of stuff really goes down. That's where I feel like Life is Strange starts to take its darker road, you know?
For sure.
You want to talk about your experience with that?
Oh, man. First of all, again, thanks for turning me onto this wonderful, wonderful game series. So this episode was definitely changing in the regard that you got to spend some time kind of living some memories, spending some quality time with Chloe. And Max and Chloe kind of getting to kind of like rekindle their true bond of friendship in a way. And what really stood out for me was some of the set pieces in the game. You have the school in the setting of nighttime after dark, and obviously you're supposed to obey the curfew, which you don't. And you're kind of getting into trouble and kind of exploring the school and doing some silly things. And it's really kind of like, for me, like a walk down memory lane, because it's been a long time since I've been inside of a high school and inside of a swimming pool in a high school as well. And for me, that was really like my most memorable fun time, was just kind of exploring through I chose the boys' bathroom. Don't judge.
I don't judge you.
And we just kind of snuck through and went to the pool and had a good time. And overall, I'd say the episode really carried the tones well, and then threw us a giant curveball. I think it's going to take a lot more than just a few stabs at it to really speak to the overarching story that it carries through. But it really was, just for me, a really good, like, solid third episode. And it really, because I have yet to see what's down the road, for me, it was like going from step 1 to step 2 to step 3. For me, it just keeps getting better. The storytelling is getting better, the writing is getting better, and the gameplay mechanics are throwing you hidden curveballs and making you really fight harder than you should have to get to the next objective. And I really like that. I felt I was the most putsy during this episode, and I had the most to rewind and start over again. And it was definitely kind of eye-opening. I don't know if I was just having an off day or if I just really didn't put that much thought into it, but I definitely had some struggles, and I had probably my most rewinds out of the entire 3 episodes so far. But yeah, I really like the after hours dark theme of sneaking into the principal's office to search records and try to find some evidence against Nathan and the conspiracy that's kind of like looming over the school. And as a whole, I think it's a really good, solid step up from the other two. And I think I'm super excited to see where episode 4 and 5 take us.
I think you're right. I think this episode, there's a lot of moral dilemmas that they offered into this episode that they didn't previously. You know, I think there's a lot of cool things, especially at night with the school, where, yeah, you can go into the boys' locker room. You can, explore this area. You can go through this file and you can go through this. And there's you see a lot more consequences or choices that you haven't had in previous episodes, which I really like, because now Life is Strange has kind of gone from this like linear 1 to 2 option story to more like a Mass Effect, where your story, depending on what you chose in the past, is now starting to compound and grow bigger. It gives you a lot more options. The one thing I will say with the Life is Strange, what did you do with, so there's money in the school. Did you decide to use the money, or did you decide to leave it?
So when you finally use your little homemade pipe bomb, which was cool, by the way, to have to search for the ingredients, when you finally break into the office and you sneak in and you go through the principal's office and you go through the drawer and you see the stack of money, you have the choice to obviously take the $5,000 or so cash and give it to Chloe to pay back Frank, or you can just leave it there because it is for the disabled charity that's being run through the school. I actually opted to not take the money, to do the right thing, and to keep the money there for the disabled children, instead of just, trying to pay off Chloe's, drug dealer, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. I feel you on that. For me, I don't actually remember what I ended up choosing because Frank is a very big antagonist in Life is Strange, and sometimes the interactions you have with him, you need him to be on your side for certain things in order for certain storylines to progress. And maybe I did, maybe I didn't. I don't exactly remember personally, to be honest, because it's such an important thing, but it's like a decision that you know I think I might have chose to pay off Frank so I could get more information for X, Y, and Z,
Hmm.
later down the road, and that's how I viewed it, because at the end of the day, I think when you're dealing with life and death situations, um, you know, is it better to save my life and pay off this drug dealer who can tell me what happened to these other people and save a bunch of other people? You know, that's that's kind of the moral dilemma of it. It's kind of similar like the surveillance the surveillance survey you can sign in the first episode on whether or
Hmm.
not Chloe's dad should be allowed to put security cameras in the school. And
Yeah.
depending on if you sign that or not, uh, you know, he'll bring it up. He'll be like, "Oh, even that little petition can't stop me," and stuff like that. And eventually, it comes around that the petition does do something or whatnot, or the petition doesn't go through, and they're able to put more cameras in. And there's little things like that where you start to compound and see it more. Like I said, like even as an example is with your plant. I love that about Life is Strange. Can't speak to that enough. But for you, like going through the story for the first time, like what is it about the story that was captivating to you in this particular episode?
It's all about friendship, and it's about exploring and uh, following your own path. So like I said, the reason why I didn't take the money is because it just felt kind of dirty. It was behind a locked drawer, a locked door, and it was meant for a charity. It just felt kind of dirty. So I just did it the way that if I was to come across money like that, that was someone else's property. Um, and I've actually had a real world opportunity where I found a stack of cash and I actually turned it over to the proper person who it belonged to instead of just being dishonest and taking it. So for me, I just kind of followed my own path, and the game lets you live vicariously or lets you choose what you want to do and walk the straight path. So it's up to you what to do. I think I like that about the game the most, the choices, the variety that you have. Do you want to play as a fantasy like a Grand Theft Auto fantasy, or do you want to just play as an honest person, or do you want to just do something you've never done before and make some choices you've never made before? Now that you have the cool ability to rewind and maybe undo or redo things and get a different perspective. Um, so far for the story for this episode, I did a lot of detective work and a lot of digging into the emails, the websites, the computers, the files in the offices. I was like a sponge. I went in and I really wanted to absorb as much information as I could. And during this episode, you actually learn quite a bit about the files that the school, through David and the principal, are keeping on all the students, and you kind of see that there's a little bit of favoritism leaning towards Nathan Prescott because of his father's donation money that the family has given to the school. And I found it most interesting that Nathan Prescott's father is giving like a threatening letter to the school, to the principal, that he's stopping his charitable donations to the school until they reinstate his son. And so I just find it interesting that like with both that discovery and then talking to Nathan in the diner this episode, even though he's a douchebag, you really learn that it's really it's you kind of almost start to see like you could maybe feel bad for him
Mhm.
because he flat out calls his father an asshole, and you kind of see this like story where it could just be this kid's just been abused mentally, physically, and just forced to walk his father's path. Maybe his father didn't get to be so successful in life. And I can kind of see how a lot that would touch to a lot of people, because for the most part in society our parents have pushed us to be better than them, and a lot of times it's out of love, but as young people we take it as something else. And so I think
Mhm.
that could be a big misunderstanding that they just are going to explain, or maybe they haven't. But doing a lot of the background on David as well, and seeing that they actually, so on the desk inside the principal's office is the petition that was handed over that was signed by all the students, and it's basically like null and voiding the installation of all the new security cameras. And so, it's good to see that your decision you made before you knew David and the whole situation, that you tried to do something right and it actually succeeded. Now, whether or not that will be a detriment is yet to be seen. My thought was like thinking too much. Like, what if, you don't have the security cameras that are installed because of the whole, we don't want to be, conspiracy theorists and be paranoid all the time. But what if it's the bad thing that if something happens, like a murder or like something happens and that could have been caught on camera, that we now would never know because there's no security cameras in place. So it's definitely feels like every little thing in the game is a decision that's either going to bite you in the butt or not. And I really like how everything has weight, even something as small as you know, picking up a photograph and looking at it, or taking a photograph of something in the environment. Everything like carries weight, and the decisions you make during your dialogue conversations carries direct weight into your progression through the episode, and it has lasting consequences, both good and bad. And that was kind of eye-opening for me this episode, where you're doing something as simple as, you're in the diner trying to figure out how you're going to get the keys from Frank in order to go and snoop in his trailer and see if you can find clues. And having to go, it took me like an hour alone just to get past that in the diner, because all the different, you got the police officer you have to get information from, there's Nathan, and then you have to, like, you can spill his beans on the floor, which I did, which was hilarious. You can spill his beans, you can spill his sodas, and then I finally learned the clever trick where you have him bring out his keys and set it down, and you take them, and then he gets mad to come at you. You rewind it, and then you've got the keys in your pocket. So that those kinds of things, that cleverness with the gameplay mechanic, that's all directly tied into the story. I think it flows really well, and I think it's something that definitely people who haven't played the franchise or are just kind of like, oh, it's just kind of not my thing, I think you should play it. I think it's definitely eye-opening, and it's engaging, and it's definitely something that has been overlooked, and I think deserves a little bit more time in the limelight for sure.
Mm-hmm. I agree 100% with like where Life is Strange really shines the best is its narrative and its ability to have a realistic world, more or less. And there's people who rip it apart, like with any video game, like they'll be like, oh, this is unrealistic, stuff like that. And I think that just sometimes, maybe on a whimsical wish, we can just overlook some of the minor things in society that we might not find realistic. Maybe there is a little place in Oregon that's like this, and that's one of the things that for me, whenever I played it, I just kind of was like, this is realistic. This could be something that could conceivably happen. And some people are like, this could never happen. I mean, yeah, rewinding time and all that stuff's very unlikely. But, sometimes that's the nice thing about Life is Strange, is that it's enough of it's realistic, but it gives you this whimsical, whimsical fantasy that you can get immersed into. I love that about it. The one thing I will say with Frank is that I really like his voice actor. I really like how Frank is delivered. I really like the fact that if you go into his RV or his mobile home, you start to see who he is as a person. You start to realize that Pommaduke was a rescue. And he really loves that dog, and Rachel Amber and him were actually really in love. And that's something that also really hurts Chloe reading that book and discovering that truth about Frank, is that's why he has Rachel Amber's bracelet. That's why Rachel Amber constantly hung out with Frank. It wasn't because necessarily they were doing drugs or whatever. It was because they loved each other. And that's the thing that sometimes, the narrative needed, was sort of that, misdirection in order to give you that drama. And they did it in such a way that it's pretty realistic. You're not going to tell everybody, you're dating someone if they don't like them. It's kind of a cool scenario to be in, where there's enough realism in the drama. It's not blatant like Degrassi drama. I don't know if you've ever seen Degrassi. It's a very old Nickelodeon show. But I mean, like, the drama in that show, it's like ridiculous, like super unrealistic. Whereas this, it's got a hint of realism in it, so it's a little easier to grasp. The other thing that was really cool was that they start to introduce you more to the Price family. They start introducing you more into Chloe's life, in her family situation. I mean, we've met David, we've met her mom, and you kind of see them in their separate worlds, but you haven't really ever experienced them together. And that was a very unique perspective, especially with the elements that tie later into the story where you can affect the outcome of that family. I don't know if you want to elaborate more on that or not.
That's one of the things of this episode that threw me a curveball. When you've gotten through the episode, you've gotten through the night stuff at school. Chloe helped you escape from the why am I having trouble remembering the word for swimming pool in high school?
Um, it's a pool.
It bothers me. There's a name that's escaping my memory, and I will laugh at this, and I will welcome everyone to laugh at me for getting this name. However, so once you finally escape and you go to her house, you sleep over, and then you have a lot of like memory lane moments coming together where you're starting to really like strengthen your bond with Chloe, and it gets kind of a little bit flirty, a little bit like
Oh yeah.
sassy. I just went for it. I kissed her. Like
Oh,
I
wait,
pushed
you're
the
jumping the
threshold.
gun here. You gotta kind of rewind there. Life is Strange rewind here. What are you talking about? This kiss? Yeah, it's probably one of the reasons many people play the game, but you got to elaborate for
So
those people who don't
yeah,
know.
so it's like you're kind of getting these undertones after they wake up after sleeping over. You notice your clothes are dirty and you're kind of checking out her room, and she goes to tell you, "Hey, I've got some clothes, left over. Go put something on." And she finds I guess an outfit that Rachel had worn that she held on to, and she just let her basically put it on. But right before that, she kind of like gets sassy and they start teasing, and she's like, I can basically tell you whatever to do and you'll do it, and like right now just kiss me. And so you basically have the choice, kiss her or not, and then you basically go up to her and you charge towards her and kiss her, or you don't. Now I just did it just to be silly, which it's kind of in like a vein of teasing, and it doesn't mean anything over sexualized. But I kind of get like through the facial animations and through some of the context that maybe Chloe has deeper feelings than she's letting on.
Mhm.
And uh, I think Max is just kind of too naive and really doesn't understand, or really just kind of like brushes it off, so to speak. And so you go through the course of that, and then when you do go downstairs, that's that family dynamic that you're talking about, where you kind of relive memories with her mom and as you were kids. What was really trippy for me was uh the awkwardness of like when David comes home and he's just like super upset about something so stupid. Um and it causes like this dynamic family wedge, and then you have the option to side with him or side with Chloe, and obviously you're going to back your friend in that instance. So it's like everybody ganged up on David, and he felt like betrayed and scorned, and I felt kind of bad for him, but at the same time, like, you know, you really don't know. Is this all his doing, or is it something that he's trying to do behind the scenes to protect the students of Blackwater? You really don't know. You just have to kind of guess and speculate. And so
Mhm.
I kind of felt bad for him, but I kind of felt good for Max at the same time for standing up for herself and being able to say something to him and kind of put him in his place.
Yeah.
Um, and then there's just like the end of the episode, which just threw me through a loop. We can touch on that later, but the game definitely does a lot to show you more, like you said, of her family, and kind of like show you what history was like before and after her original father had passed away, and which is kind of sad but kind of telling and warm-hearted and touching at the same time. I wasn't expecting that, like, to relive those moments and to be able to see 5 years prior what you two were like as friends before you left after everything changed. So
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool too. One of the things that I always liked about David was that, everyone, when you first like experience David, you're like, wow, this guy's kind of like over the top. He takes his job a little too seriously. But especially towards this episode, you start to see that he does really care about the students, and he cares about what's happening because of Rachel Amber going missing, people jumping off buildings trying to commit suicide. Like that's the real thing that David's trying to protect, and he might not be going about it the right way, but he's at least trying. And
Yeah.
the way he's going about it might be wrong. And for me, I actually stood behind David in this situation because I he's trying to do the right thing, and Chloe kind of instigated it. She kind of took it over the bounds that it needed to be. She was aggressive, and it I rewound between them both multiple times because I was like, do I stand by Chloe? But does David really deserve to get kicked out of the house for trying to defend the Blackwell and make it safe? And it was a really tough call, but I ended up choosing to side with David because out of all the times I've ever ripped on David, all the times that we've gone against him, we've decided to back up Kate Marshall, uh, and report that he's been a bad person to students. This is one moment where I'm like, I understand what he's doing, you know, and for once Chloe kind of started it and doesn't necessarily deserve my backing on it. I guess I'm not a good friend in that situation, but it's the one time where I can see where he's coming from, and I
Yeah.
like that is that it wasn't a black and white of do you choose David or do you choose Chloe. It's more of a both of them are kind of in the wrong for separate reasons, and it's more of which outcome do you really think is appropriate for the actions of that individual.
Hmm.
I mean, because Chloe being mad at you, it's whatever, she gets mad at you, and then you're like, whoa, whatever, let's go do something else. I feel pissed off.
Hmm.
That's the issue with Life is Strange as far as writing goes, is that Chloe does need to progress the story for certain things. So like she can't get mad at you for too long.
Hmm.
And she can be upset at you about some things, and she brings back and she kind of like she brings up stuff that from the past and stuff like that. But I do feel like when Chloe's really upset with you, they make it dramatic how upset she is with you, but it's not as explosive as it should be. Like a little bit more milder explosions, and it would have I think a little bit more impactful personally
Hmm.
because it would have been more realistic. I think sometimes it's the difference between being like I'm not upset with you, I'm disappointed with you sort of thing. The disappointed stab,
Yeah.
that subtle tone is just enough to make a big difference, and I think that they missed out a little bit on that. The big thing that I take away from that is, they have to progress the story one way or the other. So they can't give you like side with David and everyone dies, or side with Chloe and everyone died. Like, you know what I mean? Like they can't give you
Hmm.
that. They gotta progress the story. It's not so dramatic that they can't alter the story like that. They could be, but they just didn't do it in this situation. You know what I'm saying?
Well, this is the first the dining room breakfast and the confrontation with David really kind of came out of left field, to be honest, because I expected him to be there because of the key things that her mom said when she served breakfast. She said, breakfast fit for two queens and a king. So I knew what I thought was going to happen was David was going to come down for breakfast and be like, "Oh, you're here? Oh, great!" And have like a get to know him kind of like he's going to read his paper, he's going to sip his coffee. You're going to kind of inside experience what he does in his morning routine. And then they kind of threw it out there where he's like pissed off and he's coming home from work because he's just too frustrated to stay, but it's like you just got to work and you're going back home to take a nap. That this man who's a military man who's like focused on security, his voice dialogue options is I'm home, I'm gonna take a nap because I'm doing all this paperwork. That just to me was off-putting. That's my one criticism of the story, is that could have been handled differently.
Yeah.
However, that's what threw me off, and why I made the poor choices that I made, because I'm just like, I thought siding with Chloe was going to slap him back to reality and help him kind of go back to school. Instead, like, it was going to tear the family apart, and it's my house, and you get out, and you've basically ruined their family.
Oh yeah.
It kind of caught me off guard and got me frustrated, uh, but I mean, everything overall otherwise is definitely spot on, and very, very purposeful with the way everything is shown. The what's really stands out to me is when you first start and it's in the school. Everything's dark. It's after hours. Everyone's supposed to be obeying curfew and in their dorm, and everyone's supposed to be going to sleep. And you take a stroll, and through the in the girls' bathroom, you find what's her name?
Victoria.
No, you come across her later, but you find one of her close friends, Taylor, yeah, and you have a conversation with her, and you're kind of getting through these conversations that there's definitely fallout from this attempted suicide, and then you go outside to go meet up with Chloe because you get a text partway through saying, "Hey, let's go meet up or whatever." So you make this pact to go sneak out of school, and then you're on the grounds and you just see the nighttime nature. You see the fireflies, the squirrel. It's very serene and very peaceful. And then you've got the principal who's like staggering drunk, stepping out of the school, and he's got a bottle of bourbon right there, and he's like trying to lock the door, and he's kind of fumbling and putzing, and he sits down, and it's like Max is like, "Hey, we got to sneak past him." I just went for it and walked right up to him to talk to him, and then you get the interesting conversation that he kind of forgives you for disobeying curfew and tells you, you've earned it, go have good dreams. I thought that was very interesting way to put that. And then you back up time, and then you sneak past him when he's still fumbling with the door to escape and to sneak out. I thought it was going to be to sneak out away on the town, but it was actually to sneak further into the campus, and it kind of brought about the memorable swimming pool whole set.
An auditorium
really
is what you're trying to think of, isn't it?
I gotta say the swimming pool mechanics were pretty good for a game that wasn't putting too much of a big AAA budget into it. I really just enjoyed the whole school after hours sneaking around, sneaking away from the guard, aspect to it. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's almost like a Metal Gear Solid game with the stealth mechanic just midway through the game. And I was like, oh no, I'm like, I can't get caught by this guy. I really like the school at night too. I love how Life is Strange reused the set pieces and they make them different. It gives it more life, because there's certain reasons why the school at night is a completely different experience than the school during the day. I do like that a lot. And the squirrel, now that you bring up that squirrel, we see that squirrel in every episode. I didn't really realize it till now.
Mm-hmm.
That squirrel's everywhere.
He's in the courtyard. Yep.
Yeah, he's everywhere. But when you're on campus, did you notice? Oh my gosh, I said her name earlier. Oh, Victoria. Victoria was with Mr. Jefferson.
Oh yes, that's right. When you both were sneaking out, when you were trying to get to your car, I think it was, or just shortly before that, she's trying to bribe Mr. Jefferson with to pick her photo for the contest. And I just found it interesting that literally the same day, later on that day, after somebody tries to take their own life, she's more focused on winning the contest and trying to kind of like smooth her way to the top, so to speak. I found it interesting that she made advances towards him, and he definitely just like, I don't even want to talk about this, just get away from me, let me go. I found that interesting because I kind of had a creep factor with the teacher for a moment there, and I'm like, oh, okay, I think he's a good
Jefferson,
guy.
a creep. Yeah, I totally get that vibe from him too. I think I might be jealous of Mr. Jefferson, to be honest.
Just for a second, he's a handsome fella,
yeah.
And he does. I like his glasses. I like his look. He's a cool looking dude. I just had a moment where they started that scene, and I'm like, oh no,
yeah,
this dude's a creeper. But turns out he was a good dude.
Yeah, Mr. Jefferson. I feels like when she says when you see those memes where it's like she says not to worry about her guy friend, and then it's like her guy friend's Mr. Jefferson. I feel like it's one of those memes.
Oh man, I hate to do this to you, bro, but I think it's time for the save point.
I agree with that. Yeah, so with this week's save point, I don't think we have any comments, do we, Matt?
Man, we do not, but that's okay. We've kind of fallen off the wagon a little bit. We've had life get in our way, and we've had to do some things and spend some time apart a little bit here. So I can respect that. Really, no comments to leave, nothing really necessary to say. But yeah, we do have some stuff that we've been up to. What have you been up to, man?
Well, I've been really planning for my wedding. I've been having to finance that sort of thing, like get finances in a line and then, put down payments on the venue and stuff like that. So that's really where my free time has gone, is having
Yeah.
stress, and worrying where I'm going to get all this money from. That's the big thing. You're invited, just so you know. Just so everyone in the world knows that Matt is, of course, invited, and he'll be
I would
flying
hope
here.
so.
Yeah,
I mean,
you gotta.
we're not going to do an episode live from your chapel though, but I'll be there.
It'll be on a Saturday, so hopefully we'll already have an episode in the queue, so I don't have to shoot it the next week.
Sounds good.
Yeah, we'll work on it. We'll get something going. We'll get back in the swing of things. We've been getting better. We've been getting a little better, but we have to take time off every now and then. We got life things, and like you said, I mean, you have some exciting news because you had to go wait 7 hours at a GameStop for what you got, right? Just kidding. No, you didn't get it. You didn't wait 7 hours for it, but
No, I did not. So it is official. I have finally conquered the console bots this year. We got a Series X earlier this year, a couple months into the new year, and we are now proud owners of a new PlayStation 5 via Walmart. Thank you, Walmart. Appreciate y'all. And it came pretty quick. It came a few days earlier than expected. It came just a couple days past my birthday, so I got to enjoy my birthday wish and a nice present a few days late, but can't complain, man. It's been a blast playing it.
what you been playing on it?
Oh, I've been playing. Let's see, some Spider-Man Morales. I've been playing some MLB The Show, some Cyberpunk, and my wife's been playing the little VR, the Astros Playroom.
Astrobots?
Am I thinking VR? Yeah, the little Astrobots.
yeah.
It's pre-installed, and I watched her. I actually picked up Assassin's Creed Valhalla for her for the console.
Oh, you
and
should have
she
told me.
put that
I
through
would
its
have totally
paces.
just sent it to you.
Oh, you have Valhalla too?
Yeah, I have,
Okay.
I have Valhalla, and I'm never
Oh,
going to play
oh.
it.
Oh, future episode right
Future
there.
episode, maybe. Yeah, future episode of all the games that I'll never play, and Matt just has to ask me if he can borrow it.
Demon Souls is number 1 right off the bat.
Oh, geez.
No,
Oh,
but,
my gosh. We'll be here next year, and you still won't get past the first level.
So the one thing I'd say is that the PlayStation 5, I was pleasantly surprised. I really like the controller. I like the controller's battery life, and I just am a little bit disappointed in the storage space, but I know that they're already working towards releasing the patch to drop the M.2 drives that will be compatible to maximize your storage. I am thankful that you can install your entire PS4 library on your, external hard drive. That's nice. And so the only drawback I would say is just the fact that it just doesn't have enough storage space for the AAA titles for PS5. So 5 games or 6 games installed and it's full, and you're like, oh, what do I do? So other than that, I would say, I think on par, if you want to say, does it meet or beat the Xbox Series X in terms of everything feature wise, from the controller to not having to need batteries, to the controller battery life, to the connectivity and the speed of the console. I would say it meets the Series X. And as far as game library goes, finally being able to play your older games on it and be able to it's basically, it does almost everything the Series X does. It's just maybe in certain games that aren't fully optimized for it, it holds it back slightly. But other than that, it's a great console, and I'm just so thankful to have it. I did not think going into this year I would be owning both next-gen consoles before the year was out, with the way everything was, with bots and stores and trailers being hijacked and all this crazy stuff going on. People spending thousands of dollars. I think I got a fair deal for $540 from Walmart, I would say.
It's a great deal. That's still, if you're paying MSRP, you're still golden. I mean, I play my PlayStation maybe 2-3 times a week. I actually been playing PlayStation more than PC recently, just because of the convenience of having a controller. And I kind of go through these phases where it's like, oh, I really like console. Oh, I really like PC. Oh, I really like console. And right now I'm really into a mobile game, which is which I've been doing. I've been playing the Nier Reincarnation on the phone. And I've been addicted to it. You guys know me. I'm a huge Nier fan. So a gacha game with Nier mechanics and the Nier story. I don't care about the story. I just care about getting the max loot.
Yeah.
And I haven't spent money on it. So when I run out of stamina for the day, I'm done. That's like my little fix. It's like my drug addiction. I gotta
That's the
tap my
one thing
things.
about mobile games that's nice, but it's also sucks because when you actually have the time and you're bored and you want to just do something for a long period of time, it's good for just short bursts naturally.
Yep.
And then your mobile game, it's like, oh well, I've only got 10 hearts, and then after this, I have to wait 24 hours to replenish. Okay, not a problem. It's win lose for me. Mobile games. I don't think I'll ever get into it just because getting a little bit older, it's kind of hard to sit there hunkered down on the phone, and it's just easier for me to sit back, relax, and just enjoy the TV.
Exactly.
And so, 70-inch TV versus 7-inch screen, there's no comparison.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I'll always be a console gamer, but I could see the appeal for mobile games, especially the convenience and portability.
Mm-hmm. It's like and so many accessories now, so you can get like things you can put on the side of them. We talked about that earlier in a previous episode. Is mobile gaming kind of the future? And it's surprising how well some of these games are looking on phones. And we'll have to talk about that in a future episode because I have actually changed my mentality. Surprise! Brett's allowed to change his option, like change his mind.
You must not change your
I can't.
opinion.
I got it. They're like Brett's just sticks to his guns. No, I changed my mind on mobile games. I've come to appreciate them quite a bit more.
Nice.
I don't play as many mobile games as people would think, but I do appreciate them because they do hold a certain spot in different societies. I've started to notice. Just kind of, I'll finish this note and then we'll move on to something else. But mobile games in a place of like Tokyo, China, or I say China, like Beijing. Sorry, I go from a city to a country. And like Chicago, take some 3 highly populated cities. It makes more sense to have a mobile game in that situation because you're using mobile transportation, like you're using the train system, and having a mobile game on your phone, yada blah 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 blah. Oh, like it's my huts, blah blah blah, and then you're at work. That's where mobile games are extremely more popular, and it makes way more sense because in Tokyo you don't have a big apartment, you don't have the space to have all of that, and it's whatever, but you've got plenty of time between your commute to your office and the 5th floor of your office compound. Like there's a lot of time for you to play when you're on the move, mobile
for sure.
gaming. But
you're right about that. It's all situational. Like for me, Texas, we really don't have bus lines out here because we don't live in the major part of the city, and so we don't have bus lines out here, so there's no public transportation. So really, it's just driving back and forth to work. But when I worked at PetSmart a few years ago, I on my breaks, when I was a manager, I would sit there and just kind of like play some of the mobile games on my phone for my lunch break. So I would just take 30 minutes to just kind of unwind and pick up a mobile game and play it. Various. I think at that time I was playing the Walking Dead mobile game, and I was like addicted to it. I could not put it down. Then I got into solitaire, poker, things like that, just to kind of pass the time. I could see the appeal.
Yeah, but, definitely. It's definitely like it's a tap and play sort of thing. You're eating a sandwich or whatever.
One thing I want to share with you before we leave this save point and finish up the show here, I was able to acquire a copy of Valhalla on Xbox for Sir Solna, so we definitely have to get you onto Valhalla and get you to play that so we can have a 3-way conversation. Bring old Timmy back.
All right, we'll bring Tim back and we'll talk about. Final
note. You got time.
Final note. Sorry, I totally am stealing the show here with this save point. I went to Lambeau Field for the first time in my life. First ever time to go to a Packer event.
Seriously?
Yeah, it's family night, and I got club seats given to me.
Ooh.
I can't say who because that would give it away. But I got club seats, and so I took a friend of mine. His name's not JT's Reaper anymore. Snell, my very close friend. He's actually gonna be my best man. Me and him went, and so I got this in Lambeau Field. I don't know if you saw it on the news that someone tackled Aaron Rodgers and stole his helmet, but it's definitely me. I know it's a I didn't actually steal it from Aaron Rodgers, but it's super dope. I love it. It's super cool.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah, it was expensive.
That's awesome.
Of all the years I've saving for a wedding, and I'm spending money on a helmet.
Yeah, that's funny. It's funny. All the years I've been a Packer fan, I've never been able to go. So kudos to you, man. Oh, yeah. That's awesome.
Well, you have to come down. You have to come down and watch a game at some point. Or I don't know if they play. I don't know.
Oh, they play the Texans almost every year.
They play you guys quite a bit, but we always lose because you're in a dome.
I'll drive to Dallas for that.
I don't know. I'm not that dedicated of a Packers fan. I ain't driving out to Dallas. Anyways, guys, let's close out the remaining of the episode. We got about 18 minutes on the clock. Let's start this out and finish up with the biggest mind fuck thing part of Life
Yeah.
is Strange. Yeah. The ending, Matt.
So my explosion either sounded like a loogie or an explosion. I'll have to edit that.
Yeah.
Dude, that was a mind fuck in itself, man. Wow. I actually had to take a moment. I was like, of all the good things you could have done to do this, and this is what the outcome is. Oh my god, like, are you serious? I need to know what happened. Cliffhanger.
Yeah. Oh my god.
I wasn't expecting that.
We're being very vague here to, keep you guys here till the end. I'm just kidding. So what happens is that you end up going back in time, and Matt had kind of hinted to this earlier, where you are able to change the outcome of the Price family and change the roles that they have in that day, because you can affect whether or not Chloe's dad lives, which is a really, really interesting set piece. It's a really interesting little side story within the main story, if that makes sense, because it's not pertaining to what's going on at Blackwater. It's a separate closed loop story of the Price family and what could have happened in your friendship with Chloe. Because this event that is about to happen, it is something that drives Max in later episodes. It is something that is brought up multiple times, because the thing is that Max will know that this reality exists, but Chloe doesn't, and that's the most messed up part about it. So at the very end of the episode, Max has lived this entire reality separately to the world that she is now apparently part of, and has no idea what is about to happen, what the world is like, and what else is going on in it, because it's a separate reality. And that's the really crazy part about it. Because whether or not you decide, or not decide, but whether or not Chloe's dad lives or dies, dramatically changes how their friendship goes. You want to elaborate a little further on that?
Oh, for sure. First of all, I loved the cat and mouse mini game with the car keys. That was fantastic. So you basically you're sitting in real time as Max, and you find a photo of you two as 13-year-olds, and you pick up the photo, and you have to kind of use the sticks to kind of like bring the image into focus. And when you hold it, you start to like feel like you're going into this other realm, and then you actually step back into a memory from the past that you had. However, it's going to give you the tools, once you play it the right way, to actually prevent William's death in the first place. And that was actually phenomenal. I didn't think it was going to work. I thought it was going to be, no matter what course you took to stop him from getting his car keys, that he was just going to be able to go anyways. And so it was really clever, when you go to unplug the phone line so he never gets that call to pick up his wife. Which the tragic day that he gets that call, he goes to pick up his wife from work, and he gets killed in an accident. And so, you can pull the phone plug out of the wall and then restart it, and no call comes across. Well, I kind of forget he had a cell phone, so all of a sudden his phone rings. It's like, shit. Okay, so what can you go back and do? Well, you go back and you find his car keys, and then there's any one of like 5 or 6 places you can hide the car keys. The vase, the trash can, the cereal box, the stuff on the table, the thing by the phone. The clever part is, when you try to hide it, I threw it into the vase, and then he pulls out his little Spy Master clicker and beeps the car keys, and he finds them anyways. So I think I failed about 4 times until I realized you could throw the car keys in the sink and he wouldn't hear it. And that was the ticket, throwing the car keys in the sink, so that when he would beep, he couldn't hear the beep, and he would have to go and find another way to get there. And so then you convince him to take the bus, and then that changes the core, that rewrites history, to where he never is in the car, to never be in that accident, and that alters the course of history. And it also alters the reality in the current time, because then everything has been different. I loved the video montage of, you know, the pictures kind of like showing where they had the wedding between David and Joyce, and then the wedding picture kind of crumples and fades, and it's rewritten, and it's showing William and Joyce together, and so it's like this really cool video montage of history being rewritten as we're playing it because of the us making this life altering this going back and rewriting history. It's kind of like it scratches that itch. Could I ever go back and do things differently? Could I ever go back and maybe make changes? How would things turn out? And it actually shows you. That I was blown away by the interactivity in that moment where, you know, I was trying to find where you could take a photo and trying to find like how you could change things, and it was really a long process for me because I had to redo it like 5 or 6 times. But I really was blown away by the outcome. And after the montage happens, um, what stood out, and I'll let you take it away and finish it up. But what stood out to me is I knew when I saw that the different things were happening. Like now that life has been altered, you're sitting on the grass and you're inside the Vortex Club, and you leave and you go home. And I'll just say the one thing and I'll let you take it away. But I knew something was wrong, that the landscaping outside of Chloe's home was changed. Just something that doesn't stand out, but something that was altered on the front of it. A railing and a ramp was placed and built, and that clued me into something definitely being really wrong. And then just, and it was just like blown away. It was just incredible. And then it cuts out.
And then it just it leaves you there. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll let you share your experience with that and share that for all of our viewers, listeners.
Yeah, I had a very similar experience. I didn't actually notice the ramp in the front of the house, but I noticed what there wasn't the truck. I noticed that right away. The truck wasn't there because one of the things is that they show like Chloe getting her truck that no longer exists. And so right then and there, I was like, okay, are they still even friends at that point? Because that's something that's very Chloe, like a staple of her character. And now you're in the Vortex Club hanging out with like Victoria, and Victoria likes you now, and they think, oh, Max, you're so, or Maxine, or whatever your name is, or whatever they call you. I forget what they call you, but they call you something weird.
Yeah, Maxine.
Yeah, Maxine. And it's like, who is this? Who is this? This isn't Max. Like, but it's an altered reality. So it's like, maybe that is what happens to Max. Maybe Max becomes like a preppy whatever, a preppy snob. And then Warren's dating, I forget what her nuts is. The drone girl. Isn't it the drone girl that he ends up dating?
Yeah.
Yeah. And she's like, oh, Warren's dating her. Like, I'm like, oh, come on, please. Warren, you can do better than Warren. Like, I love Warren to death, but it's like, she's like, oh, Warren's dating, what's their name? So I'm like, okay, like now something's gone really bad if Warren's not after us, sort of thing, or maybe Warren's got some common sense. But that was, for me, it was one of the cool things where it's like there's so many things that just altered wise you wouldn't ever even think of. Like David's your bus driver when you go home.
Yeah.
That was crazy. Oh my gosh, he looks so sad. I felt so bad for him. And see, that's where it's like, oh, come on, David, we could use you a little happier. I felt really bad. And you see all the dead whales. Now, the dead animals, that's kind of a common theme in Life is Strange. I don't know if you picked up on it, but there's a bunch of dead birds in this episode, a bunch of dead whales in this episode. And what it's showing pretty much is that, there's something wrong with the world, in a way. And Life is Strange, for the entirety of the entire show, the entirety of the episodic games that you've played, it shows different dead animals or different oddities in society. Like at the end of episode 1, it snows, and the soundtrack that goes with it is fantastic. The soundtrack is cued in really well. Sid Meier's did a great song, great arrange of songs for Life is Strange. and he did a really good job. He did a really good job. He's not the only artist on there, but he's one of my favorites from it personally. Obstacles is the best song in Life is Strange, in my personal opinion, and it does such a good job of conveying emotions, of this, you know, small town, small town isolated experience, and that's kind of what Obstacles portrays with its sound. It's a isolated experience. It's great. It's a great song. If you haven't heard it, you gotta listen to the Life is Strange soundtrack. It's so good. It's so good. We played it in the first episode we talked about Life is Strange, and I feel like we got copyright strike, so we haven't done it again. So that's
we actually didn't. It just was difficult to put it all together.
Oh yeah. Oh, that was super. That was one of the most impressive things I think we've ever come up with, but it was very difficult. It was a lot of prep. We just haven't had time to do that. Like we said, we got life stuff going on. No pun intended. But Matt, I don't want to take away the glory of revealing the ending from you. I'll let you reveal it.
So
on all four wheels, I'll let you reveal it.
Ooh, driving the bus. All right. Well, the wheels are going around on this bus. Let's get to the chase. So, after you've altered the life and you've live TV here, folks. Ooh,
what did you do? Oh my gosh!
My lighting guy is now fired.
He just blinded himself.
I did. I think I have to fire my lighting guy. Live TV.
Oh yeah, we got to fire the interns. Yeah, we had to hire some new lighting interns, and mine's been doing pretty good. My new intern's doing great. Intern, you doing good over there?
There we go.
Good
job. Okay, he's definitely fired. Yeah, just go. Just go. You're fired. Go. Be gone. All right. Close the door. Anyways, so okay, let's reset that. So I'm totally leaving all this in, by the way.
Okay.
But after you essentially changed the course of events and you've saved William from death and life is altered, so you're part of the Vortex Club, and you notice these subtle changes. You pull up and there's the dead whales on the beach, and you really get a sense of, wow, something really definitely has altered and gone wrong. And you pull up to kind of Chloe's house, and you're running up to it, and as you run up to it, there's a wheelchair ramp that's installed, and it's like, oh, okay, the truck, like you said, the truck's not there. And then you knock on the door, and it's William. He's very happy to see you, and he's like welcoming you back after being gone for a while, in which I kind of had to take a minute to think about that. And then he opens the door a little further, and he lets Chloe know, hey, you have a visitor. And they show you like the bottom of a wheelchair, automatic wheelchair, rolling towards the door, and you see the back of it, you see the side of it, you see the front again, and then it kind of raises up, and you see Chloe, who is clearly like paraplegic or just disabled from like the neck down, and she just lights up with like this beautiful smile and like this like she was dead, and now she's just been woken back up, so to speak, by seeing Max standing at the door. And Max, of course, is just like, oh my, she can't believe it that she changed the course of events in life for the better, and something led to the fact that now Chloe is permanently in a wheelchair. And that was just like, WTF.
Yeah.
That was just so like good. Wow, because it was so touching, and it was so nice to see all the life changes. The biggest changes was Chloe was no longer a punk. She didn't have color in her hair. She didn't have like the tattoos and like the she wasn't all about getting high and stuff like that. And you kind of got the good girl vibes. She showed a picture. She's got her first car. She's got car keys and everything, and her hair is like reddish orange. And it's just, there's been so many good things that have happened. And I kind of get the consensus that because she saved William from a car accident, the keys correlates to Chloe got into a car accident and is now permanently disabled. And that was just like, for me, it was like, wow, I was emotional. It was impactful. It was like, that was the biggest curveball I did not see coming at all. I thought, it would change their friendship, that everything would be great, but I did not see that coming. That was just, wow.
It was crazy. It was such a good ending.
Crazy. Very good ending.
you gotta play episode 4 and episode 5 in order to.
I do.
Oh gosh, you gotta. That if you like that ending, episode 4 ending, you're just like,
Yeah.
what? It's so crazy. But yeah, not to take away from episode 3, it is a fantastic ending. When I first thought, because when they first show it, they show like a lower 3/4 shot, and it's zooming in, so you don't know what's going on. I thought Chloe was the dog. I thought like she altered reality and like Chloe might have died and they renamed the dog Chloe. I was like,
Oh, okay.
or Chloe ran away or something and the dog and they named the dog Chloe or something. I was like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
Like what's going on? Or she's just like, I don't know. It was my mind immediately went to a pet. But then in reality, like thinking back later, I was like, it's impossible. Like why would she be named the dog, sort of thing. But I don't know. My mom was named after their dog, so you never know. I don't know. Some people love their dogs.
Well, I mean, pets are part of the family. They're
Yeah.
not just they're for some people they're not just pets. They're an extension of themselves, and they're akin, and it's a deep seated relationship type of thing. There's nothing wrong with that.
Mm.
Animal lovers all unite and feel the same way.
Yeah. That's good. I'm glad I'm not alone in that feeling there.
No.
The one thing I will say with the wheelchair, like that, the way that they framed it up, you knew that it was Chloe. You were just hoping it wasn't. And it's when you saw her face, you're like, that's her, but that's not her at the
Shit.
same time. You're like, wow,
Yeah.
it's Chloe, but definitely not the Chloe we're used to.
No, for
And I
sure.
think
And
that's
it's-
something to be aware of. Like, like it's something
Yeah.
that you're like, it's not, it's not that reality. It's so cool.
Yeah,
Because it's so much has changed. It's night and day difference.
yeah,
And because even you as Max, you've changed. And
Yeah.
it's crazy to think about that such one. Oh, it is one monumental event in Chloe's life, but it is one little tiny thing can change so much more. And that's why the
Yeah.
butterfly effect shows in the corner of the screen whenever you make a decision, which I love
Yeah.
about Life is Strange. Artistically, amazing
Kinda-
title.
It is. The artwork, the music, the selections that the artists made, the just every little detail in the game, including the gameplay mechanics and the life choices, and kind of like the questions it leaves behind. So, when I wrapped it up here and I finished it, I'm thinking to myself, wow, maybe I shouldn't have been spending part of my life wishing I had done things differently, because if you could go back and change things and make things better, does that mean it's going to stay that way? Does it mean that, the life decisions you'd like to redo or try again or do differently, would it lead you to the same place of happiness? And it's kind of one of the things that my wife and I talk about sometimes is like, hey, I'm glad that our life paths our life paths together took a similar turn to the end that we are now, where we're happily married,
Mhm.
versus where we wouldn't have been had our life played out differently. And so it really begs the question, is it even worth really sweating the
Mhm.
past and your life choices? And is it even worth contemplating, or is it just best to enjoy what you have and step forward and just move on? And I think that's part of what for me has helped me let go of a lot of the past and look towards the future and grind and just be happy that I'm alive, happy that I have my friends and family around me, and I get to do this with you and just have a blast. And it really is honestly like the calling card for me is like, just move on and just let's do better. And that's how I've lived my life for as long as I can remember. And that's one of the reasons why I connect with this game so much.
I 100% understand that. The fact that you are able to connect so strongly with Life is Strange just based off of, the decisions that could have happened and not necessarily regretting them, but like embracing the decisions that you've made in the past. I think that's something that's really unique to Life is Strange. The fact that you can connect to it in that way, that you
Mhm.
have. And I think for me, when I connected with Life is Strange, I connected with it in not a very different way, but in a very, very emotional way as well. It was, for me, it was more of an artistic way, like where you're trying to you're trying to find self-understanding in the world.
Mhm.
And you do look back on the past and you wish you could change things, but in reality, you can't change who you are, and that's kind of the point of Life is Strange, is that even though Max wants to change so much about society and change like life for the better. She can't change certain parts of it. Otherwise, that's not her life. That's not who she is. Um, and that's where I really like Life is Strange. I really related a lot to Max in this situation of, you know, having friends who, you know, you want the best for them, but they don't necessarily choose the best path themselves. And at some point, you've got to either call it or you got to keep trying, like Max does for Chloe. And it really helped me a lot because it was one of those things where, as the game went on and as the game goes on for you, you'll start to see like, man, like Oren's really weird. I really don't want to hang out with him, but I got it because otherwise he'll be really upset. And then you hang out with Warren, you're like, that was a total waste of my time. And and then in real life, you've got that friend. You're like, I don't want to hang out with this guy, and you're just like, I'm not going to hang out with him because I saw what happened
Yeah.
when I hung out with Warren. And so that's kind of, I'm not saying that video games are a replacement for reality, but it definitely, there's aspects to it socially that I connected with, you know.
Yeah.
I love Warren to death. Don't get me wrong, but he does get he does get kind of weird sometimes. He's a nerd. He's a nerd. Don't get me wrong. I love Warren, but he's a mega nerd. But I think it's awesome that you're able to connect with this game, you know, and that's
Yeah.
something where, you know, you recommend games to people that you think they'll like. And that's what I always hope to do, especially here on Dista Digital. I hope to recommend games that I personally connect with and that you personally connect with, and we hope to share it with you and our experience. But for me, telling you to play this game and for you to connect with it in the way that you have is really, really uplifting to me because it means that I've recommended a game that you will remember and a game that you'll like and recommend to other people and say how great it is and, you know, get something out of it, out of value, not necessarily a tangible value, but you get something out of it versus me recommending you to play something like Final Fantasy VII, which you never finished. I'm holding
I'm
you
getting
again.
shit from all sides, folks, just so you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Final Fantasy VII is a tough one to play.
It is to go back to it, but it's definitely on the back burner, but it's not like down and out for the count. I just have to have the time.
Yeah.
So
I think Life is Strange makes up for it, though. Life is Strange is one of my top 10 games.
Yeah, definitely for me too, and that's hard because there's a lot of good competition in that top 10.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been a blast. I look forward to the next few episodes and going on from there, man. It's been a blast.
Yeah. Life is Strange is releasing also Life is Strange True Colors. It's going to be a spin-off of this series. Life is Strange 2 is already out. If you guys haven't already played it and you have played Life is Strange and Life is Strange 2, you have to play Life is Strange Before the Storm. I won't talk about it too much because Matt has to beat Life is Strange before I can talk about Before the Storm. But be aware that Life is Strange, they are releasing a new title, and that's important because that means Matt can play it right after this.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about the new Life is Strange. Have you seen anything about it?
I have not. I haven't played the other 3 parts, so I wouldn't know. Life is Strange 2 in their episodes, and then the True Colors. There's Before the Storm. There's just so much going on. I haven't really seen too much on it, but I'm definitely looking forward to it. I also saw they had a remaster, which was kind of odd choice for the first game, and then the Before the Storm, I think it was. They remastered those.
I don't know how you could remaster them. The graphics aren't that great to begin with. I didn't want to be the first one to say it, but I'll just say it right now. The graphics in these games are not fantastic by any means.
No, they're not by any stretch. But for the system that they were running intended for, and the abilities that they put into the framework of it, and the way that they just have everything as a whole package, it's phenomenal. I would recommend to play it on a regular television versus a computer monitor, just because a regular television is going to be slower, like it's intended on being filmed, and the camera being used. So I would recommend that. The computer monitor was kind of jarry because it's a higher refresh rate, and it fills in frames and causes all this technical issues. But on a TV, it really stood out as really just looking at all the details in the environment and keeping in mind that all of these are all brush strokes from an artist, man. It's all created on a computer with an artist and strokes, and it's all. I love the like watercolors and the washed outs, and there's just so much going on, and it feels very real at the same time. And it's definitely something that everybody should check out for sure.
Yeah, and like you said, with the watercolors, it's not as sharp as you would imagine, but it still looks really good. It's kind of like almost like a Borderlands. We've got that shell shaded.
Cell shading.
Yeah, sorry.
You almost had me go.
Yeah, but yeah, it's just an artistic decision that they made, and I'm not saying that the game's any worse or better for its art decision in that regards, but I'm a little surprised that they have to remaster it. I thought it looked fine the way it is, but if they need to milk more money, make another collector's edition, and I'll buy it. I mean, I bought the game 3 times, so I mean, if you have another collector's edition, I'll probably buy it again because it's so good.
I'm sure they will.
But that being said, I think that's all the time we have for this week's episode of Just a Digital. I totally closed out of my tab, so Matt, you can sign us out.
Well, with that being said, everybody, we're going to wrap up here today. Thank you so much for joining us in today's episode. If you have a question or a topic that you wish to have read on the show, leave a comment or reach out on Twitter with the hashtag JustADigital. And also, don't forget, we're everywhere. Facebook, Discord. I mean, we don't have a Snapchat yet, but we're getting there soon. Instagram, you name it, we're there.
TikTok.
Also, check us out on Apple and Spotify. We're there as well. You can just search Just a Digital. You'll find us, and it's really cool putting it on in the car, just listening to it. It's a blast.
Yeah. Let us know if you want us to make a Just a Digital TikTok, and then Matt can do all the TikTok challenges for you guys.
Oh, okay.
I'm
up for that. Let's do it.
Yeah, if you had 24 hours and I couldn't say no, what would you do? On that note, from all of us here at Just a Digital, I'm Brett Clark.
And I'm Matt Keaton, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.
Stay safe.
Take care.